This video is going to go over a couple of methods of setting white balance in Photoshop. There are at least two ways, probably more, but these are the two that I use the most. The first one is actually done in Adobe Camera Raw. And this is great if you know how to use Camera Raw, and it works especially well if you are actually using a RAW file. It will also work with JPEGs, but it's not as accurate. So, to set the white balance, all you have to do is pick your white balance dropper tool up here and click on something in your photo that should be neutral. That is either something that should be a neutral whitish tone or a neutral gray, like this rim along this clamshell, which I know is pretty close to a whitish gray color. Of course, this is only going to work as well as you have a truly neutral area. The less neutral it really is, the less accurate it's going to be. But that looks about right, actually. So that's one way. But suppose that you don't want to do it in Camera Raw, you want to do it right inside Photoshop. And that's especially important if you have multiple layer sort of documents. So I'm going to click Alt to change my cancel button into a reset button. Now I've got that greenish cast back, and I'm just going to click Open Image to bring this up in Photoshop. Okay, now I've got my picture open in Photoshop, and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit on it. Now, the old way to start setting the color balance would be by opening up the Curves dialog from this image menu. And you've got your black, gray, and white points to set your color balance. So you click on the black and click on something that should be black in your image. And then you click on something that should be white. And just to show you the problem with doing it this way, the old way, I'm going to click on something that is not really white. Suppose that this is really the brightest tone in my photo. Then it sets that to white, and it gives me this really blown out look in the photo. And then of course the gray point I would set on something else. But that's the problem. That's the problem with the old way, and that is solved by doing it the new way. I'm going to cancel out of this. And that is by using an adjustment layer instead. Click on Curves, do the same general thing. Your black point, your white point, I'll choose something also not truly white, but see how it blows out these tones here. And then I'll use as my gray point something in here. Okay, now my color balance is okay, relatively speaking. It's actually, I'm not picking tones that are very neutral. That's better. But you can see that I've got blown out highlights and I've lost some shadow detail, especially in here. To disregard those tonal changes but to keep the color changes, you just change this layer blend mode from normal to color. And that corrects the color, but leaves the tones the way they were. And then of course you can go create another curves layer to correctly set those tones. And if I were going to process this image fully, I would actually probably go in here and use the shadow highlights command, except on the correct layer, to try to get a little bit more shadow detail out of this, but I guess that's really an issue for another video. So I'm going to stop here, and I hope that was useful.